Josh Burdetsky is going to be jealous with all this love. He's going to want to bring you back to the editorial board to, to pat down all of this admiration.
Happy to come.
Since term limits were enacted, you and Henry Cisneros are the only 4-term mayors, 8 years of San Antonio. 8 years ago, did you have that on the bingo card?
No. And thanks for the baseball theme, Jeff. Those who know me know that my dream job was to be the beat writer for the Boston Red Sox. That was what was on my bingo card. But I fell in love with public service really as a father who wanted my son to experience San Antonio, find opportunity here in the same way that I did, and that has become my life ever since. That started really through an experience with the Chamber, believe it or not, and inspired me to learn more about San Antonio and get more involved in San Antonio through programs like Leadership San Antonio, and took a flyer for running for City Council, and here I am.
So when you began all this, you talked about Jonah and how your vision for Jonah when you were done with your term was to have him look at San Antonio as a place that he could live, get a great job, raise his family. As you think about your 8 years, I'd love some self-reflection on how you think you've done. Have you accomplished what you set out for?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult question, just because the nature of this kind of work, anything in leadership, but certainly in the public sector, is that we take the baton from someone and we pass it on to someone else. The really meaningful work that we do as civic leaders is iterative, and there's really not a start and a finish in your time. And so, to me, I reflect on what does it mean for my son to be able to be in a city and thrive in this city, and it's two things. One is, do our young people find economic opportunity here? Is this a place where our young children can be raised, get a good education, and find a job within their career field? Increasingly now, that is the case. We've seen diversification of our industries. We have recruited and grown businesses here in industries that we never would have thought of before. The emerging industries of the world are all located now here in San Antonio, some of the biggest firms. So you couple that with the fact that we have done incredible work as a community, and I know Chancellor Flores is here. We have representatives from our universities. We have pre-K for SA. We have done incredible work in building what I believe is the most well-resourced educational pipeline in the country, from early learners, pre-K, through our K-12 system innovations, through Alamo Promise, which now offers a college education without cost to any Bexar County high school graduate, now to adult workers who have to re-enter the workforce because they don't have skills for higher wage jobs. If you have initiative and you have a desire to take advantage of the economic opportunity brought to bear by these industries, we have a place for you in San Antonio. The other thing that we've done well, and certainly over the last 8 years, I believe this is true, is that we have made strategic investments in quality of life. It's one thing to be able to have a job here, but is it a safe community? Very excited, not excited, I should rephrase that. We have done well as a community to deal with the crises with respect to public safety, and if you look at our crime numbers now, they're at some of the lowest rates they've been in the last couple of decades. We're getting more reports. Year-over-year numbers are just out today. Property crime is down, I think, 25% year over year. We have still a considerable decrease in our violent crime rate. All those things are moving in the right direction. We have been making the strategic investments in green space and recreational opportunities. And you look at the investments we're making in placemaking, like Project Marvel, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. We have coupled those investments with economic opportunity, and I do believe, yes, compared to 10 years ago, San Antonio is a better place today for young people who are wanting to raise their families and build a career here, and so I'm proud of that work.
As you think about, we heard about it in the video with COVID, that's the first time you and I met. How did COVID kind of shape your terms as mayor, and what did you learn going through the pandemic?
So there's good parts and bad parts. Obviously, the good things that we learned is that this city rallies like none other. The kind of collaboration and teamwork you heard from Wayne, you heard from former or retired General John Evans. This city, all sectors pulled together and worked out solutions to some of the biggest challenges we've seen in our lifetimes. Overall, the reason why COVID and the pandemic is referred to as a reckoning for our country and for cities is that we recognize some of the significant fractures within our economy. The foundation that we had laid that led to the fact that literally overnight we had a doubling of the number of families who were reliant on the food bank for food. Yeah. There was a level of fiscal fragility for families that we had to deal with. And so COVID for us became a catalyzing moment for us to uplift the agenda that I ran on originally as mayor, to restore economic mobility, to build a foundation that included adequate affordable housing and better transportation options, a more resilient city. That was on full display countrywide, globally during the pandemic. And so as we emerged out of the pandemic, we focused our resources. We had some significant public votes to resource those areas, and we have since then moved forward. So it was a catalyst for the positive change that we need to see in San Antonio.
You, a couple weeks ago, I talked, I was at a chamber meeting and spoke, and someone asked me what I believed were some of the most important kind of future elements to San Antonio, and you've already mentioned Mike Flores, who does just an incredible job. I think also Taylor Amy does an incredible job, and the answer I gave was hire our kids, keep our kids home. And so how does Ready to Work, how have you thought about training, vocational trades, even UTSA, Alamo colleges? How do you think about keeping our kids home so that the USAAs, the Toyotas, the Valeros are hiring our children rather than looking for kids in other communities?
Well, let me reflect on the first part of your comments first and just say that we are very fortunate here in San Antonio right now. I believe we're living through a golden age of higher education here with some incredible leadership at that level. I mean, we mentioned Chancellor Flores, you mentioned President Amy. I would add to that President Evans over at UIW, you had Vanessa Beasley at Trinity, Abel Chavez over at Our Lady Lake. We have visionary leaders throughout the higher education space that are working together in collaboration to build that pathway to opportunity for students who are in school. The trouble is, that's not all that's out there. And in fact, what smacked us in the face nationwide during the pandemic was that there were households with children who didn't have the wherewithal to withstand a job loss that ultimately, made them vulnerable to eviction and needing things like food assistance. So what about all of the household earners, the adult workers who are already in the workforce, going from one job to the next, low-wage job to low-wage job, trying to string together opportunities just to keep food on the table? That's a whole generation of people who are still raising children in our family who are stuck in cycles of poverty. Yeah. And, we have talked endlessly about the challenge of poverty in the city, but in my mind, we need a more comprehensive, systematic approach to dealing with it. And so how do we get adults into a situation where they have access to better paying jobs, not just for the purpose of, being able to afford the bills, but being able to ensure that the families, the children of those parents, have better opportunities to fulfill their own education. Because statistically, if you were raised in that environment, you have much less likelihood of going to higher education and fulfilling your own careers, and that's how the cycle of poverty continues. And I'll tell you, and we should be frank with our children, if you don't have more than a high school diploma, you need a post-secondary credential, whether it's an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, technical certificate, or something else, if you want to work in a job that pays better than a poverty wage, period. And so how do we make sure that adults who are raising children, who again will have a stunted growth, have that opportunity to get those jobs? We needed training. We needed opportunities for them to get back in the workforce, training for jobs that frankly our employers are telling us are remaining unfilled. We're building all these great jobs and they're unfilled, and this is the skills gap that we've been talking about all across the country. Every city is dealing with the same issue. So that was the genesis of Ready to Work, was how do we get folks back into the workforce, training for better jobs so they can take those jobs and ultimately improve their family outcomes. I will say this, it will never move fast enough, because in order to break the cycle of poverty for one family, it takes a tremendous amount of focus and energy. Think about that. You have a mom who has a health event. If she's the breadwinner, what's going to happen if she can't get to work, let alone training? A car payment, a missed house payment. Now they're struggling for keeping the roof over their heads. So there is barriers that life presents that keep someone from being able to train and move on to a pathway of economic mobility. That is what Ready to Work is about, eliminating those barriers. And we do it one person at a time. And the dynamism of the economy means that the jobs will change over time, the industries will evolve, and so Ready to Work partners with our employers to tell us what are the needs of these employers so we can train for the right pathways. And I'll tell you, right now, today, we have almost 11,000 people in the pipeline. We've had over 2,000 people complete and be hired onto new jobs. We've got more than that in the training pipeline, and these are training certificates that sometimes take as little as 6 weeks, but thousands of them are training for careers that take a little bit more training, so there's an aging process to that whole training pipeline. I'm getting very wonky, I know. But let me just tell you what the effect is. The mean profile of the participant who enters Ready to Work is a woman of color raising children in a household that earns less than $14,000 a year. That's the person who walks in the front door of Ready to Work. So imagine the intervention, the persistence that it takes for the counselor to make sure that she stays, so that ultimately she matriculates with a credential and can get hired onto the job. We've done that now successfully for 2,000 people, and I know no one is average, but this is the average wage coming out, is she's now making $44,000 a year with benefits. So think about the power of that one household now making that transition, and the children, and the likelihood now of the children having a better future. We do that for one family, the impact over a generation is profound. We do that for 10, we're talking about major change. Do it for 100 or 1,000 people, we're talking about citywide economic transformation with a short tranche of effort. That's what Ready to Work is. I have faith in this program. We're doing it one person at a time, and I believe the voters of San Antonio who approved this program by 76% didn't do it because they thought it was going to be a slam dunk right off the bat. They believed in the importance of investing in the potential of our neighbors. So, I know this will evolve. I welcome feedback and improvements. There will have to be as the economy evolves. But let's stop talking about poverty if we're not willing to do something about it. And I'll tell you also, Ready to Work is the largest local investment in workforce development in our nation's history. San Antonio is setting the course for how we deal with poverty. And I'm extremely proud of the folks that have poured their energy and heart into this. Project Quest is a great seed of learning for us to do this at scale, but Mike Ramsey and his team are doing an incredible job bringing this program to life. And I think that looking back, we will see Ready to Work as being the moment we said we are not going to ignore poverty any longer. We're going to transform our economy so that everyone has access.
Yeah. When people ask, I've been in 4 major cities, and when people ask kind of what how San Antonio stands apart. I do agree with you at the executive university level. The collaboration and coordination between the university presidents is unparalleled in any other city I've been in, and I would also say the same is true across kind of the high functioning relationships between the mayor's office, city council, city manager, fire, police. It's pretty amazing. I want to talk about growth though. 3 out of the last 5 years, from a census perspective, San Antonio has been the fastest growing metropolitan area in the United States. You helped pass a historic housing bond. What do you see for housing? And we're going to talk about SAWS and CPS as a follow-up. Talk first just about affordability in the city.
Every city in the country, if not the world, is calling this a crisis of housing affordability, and it is true. If you can't afford the roof over your head, nothing else matters. It's the foundation for economic security. San Antonio has a model housing affordability program, starting with the framework that now is an implementation plan, an actual business plan, and we're doing yeoman's work because of the public voting to approve the housing bond. We have had over 4,000 homes preserved or produced. And we've got, I think, another 5,000 in the pipeline. Then we're well on our way to achieve the goals that were set initially in the Strategic Housing Implementation Plan. It's really just making sure that we have a supply of housing at every income level, and it's going to require us to facilitate that development or preservation at every income level. For market rate, it means that we just have to get out of the way, let developers do what they do. For affordable at the lower income range and a deeply affordable housing, it means that we've got to subsidize. We've got to do things like gap financing, et cetera. So that's what the housing bond has allowed us to do, and that's what the plan enables us to do. San Antonio is staying ahead, though, of a tidal wave. And I go back to this, Mark. We're never going to solve the housing affordability issues of the city if we're only focusing on the cost of housing. We've also got to make sure that we lift people's wages and economic outcomes so they can afford the market that's being generated here in the city.
In my favorite newspaper, we have been covering a really interesting development in the Hill Country. 9 developments north of 1604 outside of the SAWS reach have on some levels been put on hold by the Canyon Lake water facility because there's just not enough water. So as you think about the growth of this city, it comes up a lot with Project Marvel. Can you talk about just the importance of SAWS, the aging infrastructure, what you see for water health in this city as we move forward in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, well, 2 things. Number one, the strength, the foundation of our future strength as a city lies with the strength and resilience of San Antonio water system and CPS Energy. And on those 2 pillars, we're doing extraordinarily well. We are blessed by the fact that both of these agencies are publicly owned, so we have been able to lead with policy and prioritize the betterment of this community. But they have diversified their water system, they've made it more efficient, they are investing in the infrastructure ahead of the game. We're dealing with things that mostly get ignored in other utilities, such as the water loss due to aging infrastructure, so they've been ahead of the game. We've got to continue to put the pedal to the metal there. With CPS Energy, the same thing. Being ahead of the game in terms of capacity with the growth that we know is coming in demand, extremely, extremely important. That being the case, the greatest weaknesses of both systems are 2. One, making sure they continue to have political support at the local level, but also at the state and federal level, and that's a big challenge. We know, for instance, that the grid issues in the state of Texas are the greatest weakness for us in keeping our lights on, and not to mention the affordability issues of utilities are mainly generated by the fact that we've got to invest in this infrastructure because of state resilience issues. So I say that we're in good shape here in San Antonio, but we've got to keep our eye on the ball.
I get accused of being a hype man for Rudy because I just think that he does such a great job. I mean, it's kind of a thankless job to keep the lights on, but it's arguably one of the most critical jobs. Can you talk about the investments in CPS Energy? Sure. So as we hear Governor Abbott talk about the Texas Command Center and wanting that to be here in San Antonio from a cybersecurity, as we talk about other data initiatives, either at the federal level, the state level, San Antonio comes up a lot. The amount of energy required to power those data centers is
it's incredible.
Incredible.
You know, the complexity of both utilities is profound. And being able to do all these things, investments, affordably, is even more difficult. But CPS Energy specifically has invested in new capacity. At the same time, we have been listening to our community and making it more resilient, more sustainable, reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, ending the use of coal ahead of time, doing that affordably, making the grid more diversified, the portfolio of energy production. The other thing that has happened is the fact that we are dealing with a crush of new demand, not just residential growth and commercial and industry growth, but also things like data centers. You do that at the same time that we're having the resilience issues that we are at the grid. It's enormously complex, and so the next mayor is going to have their hands full just from the perspective of keeping our community informed and aware. It's so easy. It's so easy to simplify and score political points because nobody likes their rates to go up. But if we don't sustainably invest in these utilities, we will reach a point of no return that communities do not come back for in terms of economic growth and the ability to sustain their prosperity.
So let's transition to just a few more questions as we wrap up here. My favorite topic, the airport. So can you give kind of the roadmap for the airport? And I don't want to leave out VIA as well with the rapid transit system. Transportation has been a major thorn in the side of San Antonio. Can you talk about kind of the vision for the airport, the timeline for the airport, same with VIA?
Yeah, so we were still debating where we should build a new airport when I was running for mayor. Yeah. The idea that in order for us to reach world-class international capacity, we have to find a new place for the airport. So the rumblings were still there, so the first step was, let's get over that debate, let's have a factual analysis. Can we build onto the airport? Because if we do, it's in a strategically competitive location right in the heart of the city. We got through that, and now we have a plan. And we are financing that plan. We're building the airport. We've got a new terminal coming online that's going to be world-class and bigger than both current terminals combined. You add that with the multimodal capacity with VIA and a new runway shortly after that's parallel to the current runway, so now we could have two usable. The capacity and opportunities for air service in San Antonio are immense. And we're not even talking about non-stops, but I'll talk about that if you want me to.
No, it's okay.
On transportation, it's an economic mobility issue, and it's a quality of life issue. We need to be able to move around the city with more than just single occupancy vehicles, because if you do that, you are really stunting the capacity of people to reach pathways of economic mobility. Yeah. We need alternative modes of transportation. It's what people want, and it's what other people need. So VIA finally now is building an advanced rapid transit system, east, west, north, south. Their funding is good, and that'll be the backbone of mass transit for the future. I'm glad we're doing that because the voters approved it, and we're finally making that paradigm change that we've been dreaming of for decades.
So in San Antonio, the question that I get and receive the most from people in this room revolve around, I think, many of their favorite topics, which is economic development. You talked about ready to work, talked about the housing bond, transportation, the collaboration and excellent work at the university level. This city needs more jobs. As you think about economic development, specifically Project Marvel, what do you see? What is important about Project Marvel outside of keeping the Spurs in San Antonio? What is the economic impact of Project Marvel, and how do you see this moving forward, especially with you leaving office?
Yeah, well, so the economic development potential and the growth of San Antonio is happening because we're building a great workforce.
Yeah.
That we have workforce opportunities here through educational investments. We're making the quality of life investments. We have housing availability. So people want to be here because they can afford to live here. And they can have a good education and have jobs. With respect to Project Marvel, we have one of the most unique downtowns in America. And rather than looking at downtown as a collection of projects, individual projects, now we can create a space that we have talked about being a place where sports and entertainment is focused. And so we have an opportunity now to develop all these landmarks in a way that allows more locals to enjoy it and has what can be the future of the Spurs here. It's also an opportunity for us to address the expectations that were made on the east side about economic development and opportunity and the kinds of amenities that the east side residents have been wanting for years. If we work together as a city and a county and the Spurs, we can develop a plan that works. And I believe we're doing that. The opportunity that it presents is quality of life for residents and, again, to make good on those expectations that were laid many, many years ago. So I am a huge supporter of Project Marvel. And I believe that we will achieve it in a prudent, effective way, and that's what we're embarked on now is the community development process.
Yeah. Project Marvel requires a lot of interaction between the city of San Antonio and the state of Texas. Another question I get quite a bit, and I think it comes because political theater has become as important as political activism. How's your relationship with the governor's office, and what do you see in terms of the relationship between the state and the city of San Antonio as it relates to further economic development in regards to just investment?
So we work together on issues that matter to San Antonians where we can agree. And I'll tell you, in just about every economic development project, it's the city and the state and the county working together. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. And so we focus on those things where we agree, and then we try to hammer things out where we don't.
Good answer. Last two, I'd be remiss not to ask you a question about the largest employer in San Antonio, which is Joint Base San Antonio. This relationship the city has with the military is incredibly special. What do you see for the future of JBSA, all of the military personnel that call San Antonio their home, and the future of the military as an employer in the city of San Antonio?
One of the strengths of San Antonio from an economic standpoint, but also a cultural standpoint, you can't separate the military heritage of San Antonio and this community. So I believe that will continue to be cultivated. We are positioned as the center of military medicine, cybersecurity, air education, and we're the home of Army North. And so as San Antonio continues to demonstrate its collaboration and the fact that the culture is so intertwined with the military community, that will only continue. And it's to our benefit in so many aspects, but you know, there's no fence lines in San Antonio when it comes to JBSA in San Antonio, and we see the benefit of that every day.
So 8 years, incredible run in San Antonio. Everyone wants to know what is next for you.
So I'm going to take some time off, I think about a week, and slow my brain down a little bit. Look, I have enjoyed this opportunity to serve San Antonio. It's been the privilege of my life. I did not expect to be doing this for my career, and I've enjoyed every aspect of it. I have enjoyed fighting for working class people, ensuring that everyone in San Antonio has opportunity, and I don't think I'll stop doing that, whatever career happens next. I enjoy and I see the challenges coming ahead of us, and so I'm not sure you've heard the last of me, but not ready to share yet what my plans are because I'm still formulating those myself.
It's been great getting to know you. You're very fair, I would say, which is a great compliment that I can give you. Ladies and gentlemen, as Pat Frost makes his way up, I want to say thank you to the mayor. You've done an excellent job. Mayor Ron Nirenberg.
Thanks, Bart. Appreciate it.